guys, welcome back to Magic the Gathering Custom Deck Builds Episode 2. Today, I'm going to be going over a fun new deck that I came up with, and it is a blue-red card draw Flyers kind of deck. So, here we go. Alright, so first we are going to start with Finale of Promise, which is X red for a sorcery. It says you may cast up to one target instant and or sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less without paying their mana costs. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. If X is 10 or more, so you would pay 12 total for the spell, copy each of those spells twice. You may choose new targets for those copies. So essentially, if you pay enough for this spell, you get 2 spells back from your graveyard. You get those spells 3 times because you get the spell, the copy, and the second copy. It's pretty good if you can get up there quick enough. Next is Expansion Explosion. We're mainly just going to focus on the explosion half here. It is X blue red for an instant. It says explosion deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards. Really good for digging through your deck and hitting somebody for a ton at the same time if you pay enough. Next up, we have Soothsaying. I pulled this from a mystery pack. Pay 1 blue for an enchantment. It says you can pay X. Look at the top X cards of your library and put them back in any order. Kind of like scrying, but you can't bottom them. So you look at the top however many and put them back in whatever order so you can adjust your draws accordingly. Alternatively, you pay 3 blue to shuffle your library at any point in the game, which sometimes can be nice if you really like the RNG drawing aspect of the game. Next card is Faithless Looting, which I know is banned, so you can't really use it, but we're in casual, so if your friends are cool with it, go with it. Pay 1 red, it's a sorcery, it says draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. You can flashback for 2 in a red, so 3 total. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. So, just good for draw, getting unnecessary lands out of your hand. The next card we got here is Phantasmal Dragon. 2 blue for a 5/5 flying dragon illusion. It says, when Phantasmal Dragon becomes a target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it, essentially causing the ability or the spell to fizzle unless they have a way to redirect the spell. Alright, next card, Mask of Memory. Pay 2 mana for an artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card with an equip cost of 1. This is really useful if you have some Flyers and you're playing against a deck that doesn't really run against Flyers. You can just attach this to your Flyer and keep hitting people. You can just keep drawing through cards. Next card, Stormcrow. 1 and a blue for a 1/2 Flyer. Pretty simple. Last, I guess, higher end card here, Temporal Mastery. Pay 5 blue, 7 totals. Sorcery says, take an extra turn after this one, exile Temporal Mastery. Now here's the catch, it has a miracle cost of 1 and a blue, so 2 mana. The miracle says you can cast this card for its miracle cost when you draw it, if it's the first card you drew this turn. So you top deck your Temporal Mastery, you only pay 2 mana for it, which is really convenient. Okay, we're going to move on to the easier end of things, all the cheap commons and uncommons and such. So we've got Aven Windmage, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Flyer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Aven Windmage gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Alchemist Vial, 2 mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. You can also pay 1, sacrifice the vial. Target creature can't attack or block this turn. So essentially it's a emergency pacifism. Next up, Guild Globe, 2 mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Pay 2, sacrifice Guild Globe, add 2 mana of different colors. Helpful if you need multicolored spells, expansion, explosion, that kind of thing. Next up, Spellgorger Weird, 2 and a red for a 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Spellgorger Weird. Convenient, there are a ton of spells in this deck. Gitu Lava Runner, 1 mana, 1/2. As long as there are 2 or more instant and or sorcery cards in your graveyard, Gitu Lava Runner has +1/+0 and has haste. So essentially, as long as you've cast 2 or more spells that are in your graveyard, it's a 1 mana 2/2 with haste. Another fun card, Secrets of the Golden City, 1 blue sorcery. Draw 2 cards. If you have the City's Blessing, draw 3 cards instead. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. This can't be removed. Cloudkin Seer, 2 and a blue, 2/1 flying. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Anticipate, 1 and a blue, instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom in any order. Staple of anything running blue, really. Speaking of staples, I have 2 cards, Radical Idea and Divination. Radical Idea, 1 and a blue, instant, draw a card with Jumpstart. Cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs, then exile it. Divination, 2 and a blue, sorcery, draw 2 cards. Card draw is important, helps you win games. Next up, Warden of Evos Isle, 2 and a blue, 2/2 flyer. Creature spells with flying you cast cost 1 less to cast. Really nice for all the flyers we have in this deck. Alright, next. Tamiyo's Epiphany, 3 and a blue, sorcery. Scry 4, then draw 2 cards. So you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose any amount to put on the bottom, keep on the top, and then draw 2 cards. Winged Words, 2 and a blue, sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast. If you control a creature with flying, draw 2 cards. 2 mana, draw 2. Seems pretty alright to me. Salvager of Secrets, 3 blue for a 2/2. When Salvager of Secrets enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Maximize Altitude, 1 blue, sorcery. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn, also has Jumpstart. Murmuring Mystic is next up, 3 and a blue for a 1/5. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying. Shimmer of Possibility, 1 and a blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and rest on the bottom in a random order. Kind of like the Epiphany earlier, but not quite as good. Sky Theater Strix, 1 and a blue for a 1/2 flyer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Sky Theater Strix gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Eyes Everywhere. This is just nice to have to annoy people with. I know I've played against it a couple of times, and it's 2 and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. That right there is also really good. It'll help you order your deck and get what you need faster. The problem comes with the activated ability, pay 5 and a blue, so 6 total, exchange control of Eyes Everywhere, and target non-land permanent. So basically what you do, you wait for something great to come down, you pay the 6, you exchange this with the other permanent, and then it's yours. It's like mind control, but slower. So, good control and good deck value. Chemister's Insight, 3 and a blue for an instant, draw 2 cards. Coming up on the end of the list here, the Drake Twins, Crackling Drake, blue, red for a star 4 flyer. This creature's power is equal to the total number of instant and sorcery cards you own in exile and your graveyard. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. This thing can get huge really fast. The last card here on my list, before we get to mana base, is Enigma Drake, 1 blue-red, star 4 flyer. Enigma Drake's power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. So slightly worse than Crackling Drake, because you don't get to draw the card and exile doesn't count, but it still can be a very, very powerful card to finish people off. With that, then we will move on to mana base. So with this mana base, it's pretty simple. You're going to have 10 mountains and 10 islands, and if you're feeling nice, you can throw some Swiftwater Cliffs in there. They come in tapped. You tap for either color, but when they come in, you gain a life. So with that, I think that does it for me. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider subscribing. Tell your friends if you have friends who play Magic. Thanks for coming around. See you next time.